Hey guys, it's your pal Victor here from Cult Classics and Cult Following, and this is our recap video of Wandavision episode 8. And this episode, blew our minds in the live chat, and it's hard to get even into. Basically, this is a flashback episode, where we find out most of our big questions of what was going on with the show, who is Agatha Harkness, who is Wanda really. We find out the origin of Wanda's powers. Things we did find out right off the bat, that couple that we've seen in all of the commercials, starting since first episode up to now, are not Wanda's parents. Are we ever going to find out who they are? Possibly, but they were not Wanda's parents in the show. And, it turns out that Wanda's love of sitcoms was instilled into her by her father, who it turns out was kind of like a black market Sokovian movie seller, like those guys, like when you're a kid or something, if you ever took a trip to Mexico or another country, and there's like the guys who, or Chinatown or something, and there's those guys who sell like the bootleg DVDs or the black market, movies on VHS or DVD. That's what Wanda's dad was, and looks like they had a pretty idyllic, upbringing, considering they grew up in war-torn Sokovia. And we do get to see firsthand their origin, the way they told Ultron, the bomb blew up their house, and a Stark missile loomed over their heads all this time. But we get a different spin on that because we see it from Agatha Harkness's perspective, as she's kind of leading Wanda through a tour of her life to figure out what is her origin, what's her deal, how can she be so powerful. We find out that Agatha is like mega jealous of how Wanda has all these powers, where, we find out Agatha's origin in Salem, Massachusetts in 1693, where she was put to death by her own coven, led by her mother, who looked just like the comic book Agatha Harkness. And she's just a natural born witch. She wanted to learn, but the coven turned against her. She ate up all their powers, killed them all. Even her mom turned against her, and she drained all of her powers too. And even though she's a natural born witch, has lived hundreds and hundreds of years, it still sucks for her because Wanda is on such different power level. She can, do magic miles away illusions from dozens and dozens of miles away without trying, while she has to put thought into even controlling a fly. We do find out that Pietro, X-Men Pietro, not the real Pietro at all. He was just a construct that Agatha made to try to get closer to the reasoning of what's up with Wanda's powers. But she doesn't understand how Wanda doesn't even understand how runes work, or, binding spells, or any of the stuff that you would kind of take for granted if you're part of that Doctor Strange sorcerer universe stuff. So that's kind of a bummer that she's just like, dude, why are you so powerful? So she leads her through her childhood and finds out that she probably was a natural born witch and used her probability powers to keep that bomb from exploding on them and keep soldiers from killing them. She leads them through, how she really fell in love with Vision, and how she lost Vision too, and then how she went to Sword to get Vision's body back so she could put him to rest. And dude, Heyward comes across as such a fucking dick on this episode, because I'll show you his body, but I'm not going to let you bury $3 billion worth of vibranium. The first thing I think of here is like, dude, who are you to even fucking get Vision's body? You know, sword wasn't even a fucking thing, guys. Like, ugh. But it turns out that Heyward, that Wanda left because she couldn't find Vision in the body at all. So she goes in her car and she finds a little note that turns out Vision had bought them a house in this town in New Jersey, for them to like live out their days. And it triggers her power and she creates a house just out of nothing. And then from out of nothing, you can see strands of the mind gem power within her, because you see in these flashbacks that Agatha's led her through, that the mind gem bound with her on a deeper level than we even thought when Strucker was doing experiments on her. And we see the mind gem powers that are embedded within her create the Vision we've seen on the show out of nothing. And that's why he can't remember everything. Last episode, he was talking about how, like, Wanda tells me all this stuff, but it feels like it happened to somebody else, and that's because it literally did happen to somebody else. Wanda's vision is actually an all-new vision she created and kind of imbued with her memories. So he's like basically like a duplicate of the original Vision, based on her memories, which is an interesting, conundrum, because yeah, he has a real mind gem. That's kind of crazy. That's an actual infinity stone on his head. And as they go through all this, and Agatha realizes that Wanda is much more powerful than she ever realized, that Wanda is actually her powers are composed of chaos magic, and she's this like prophesized messianic figure of spontaneous creation called the Scarlet Witch, and she has to stop her, and it's like we got some like Dune kind of shit here with like the Bene Gesserit trying to stop the Kwisatz Haderach or something, but it's like I feel like Agatha might have overreached here. We still don't have any update on what happened to Monica and fake Pietro, or Fietro as Agatha called him. We do see a lot of like little shout outs in this episode to past Marvel movies, but we don't see any cameos from anybody, like, no real Pietro, no Strucker, any of that, because I could have thought this would have been a good place to like, have Strucker show up, but alas, it was not to be. And yeah, the other big thing that happened here is, it seems like Agatha and Wanda are about to throw down, and then we get the reveal that she's the Scarlet Witch, and then we get another mid-credit scene, and he's gonna send his team into the Hex to stop Wanda, and dude, he has the drone that's charged with Wanda's chaos magic, and his team is actually, wait for it, the original Vision, which he fixed. And it turns out all it needed was Wanda's chaos magic to power it. And now, like, this Vision doesn't have an infinity gem. It has like kind of like an energy thing that looks like a V, and his whole suit is in white, which is like, I think, a nod to like a point in time where like Vision was wearing an all white suit and he was kind of more like a ghostly figure. But they feed this chaos energy into him, into like this kind of charging station, and the original Vision wakes up and they're going to send him in there. So I'm sure we're going to have a Vision versus Vision battle next week, more than likely, and we're having Agatha throw down against the Scarlet Witch. This all kind of like leads me to think next week we're going to see Doctor Strange show up. That's the only possible person who can show up, given the kind of high level witchcraft and magical shenanigans going on here, that makes any sense at all whatsoever, especially since Agatha has pretty much shown us in the episode that Wanda doesn't really have any control over her powers, doesn't understand basic principles, fundamentals of magic or anything. So the only way that makes sense is if Doctor Strange is there to kind of toe her in line, because that's a direct threat to the magical cosmic fabric of the universe. So I'm excited. Looks like we're gonna have Tommy and Billy probably do some action and stuff. But and then we're gonna see wherever Monica ends up in this whole thing. So I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of plot threads that are gonna come together for next week's episode, and I'm excited. But yeah, clearly the best episode of the season so far. I'm excited. It's gonna be a really cool finale next week. We're gonna do a live watch party for that too, and we will see you guys for that next week here. And thanks for tuning in for this recap video. I appreciate it. And hopefully we will see you guys later. And thanks again for checking us out here on the recap here on Cult Classics. More reviews coming next week, and we will see you guys later. Thanks, guys.